Welcome to Flying Chariots The Rise podcast with Dustin and Chrissy. And today we have Alyssa Skews. So Alyssa and I have been Facebook friends for a while. And the other day she posted something freaking hilarious that was basically making fun of paranormal investigators when we're approached by the police when we're trespassing. And I was like, first of all, this is fucking hilarious. Second of all, I didn't know you did paranormal investigations. So we got to talking, and she only lives 2.5 hours away from me. So, as all the East Coast girls know, the weather is starting to really suck right about now. So, I said in the spring, I really want to come get you. So we're going to stay in the area for a couple of days and just meet you guys out at all these different locations. Right now, she has a new paranormal team, which is basically you and your husband, right, Alyssa?
Yeah, so it's me and my husband for the East Coast, but it was co-founded with my best friend Krista, who I also run the Fire Tribe, which is a community space for folks with chronic illnesses. We met on our healing journey and we formed our team. So she's actually Perceived Paranormal Midwest, and then I'm Perceived Paranormal East Coast. And yeah, so for us, it's pretty much just me and my husband, and then whoever decides to brave it and come out with us.
Oh, perfect. Okay. So you can be found on YouTube, Perceived Paranormal East Coast.
Correct. Yep.
Okay. If anyone wants to follow her, yeah, you've already got a bunch of stuff up. I was watching it. I have a few questions actually. So I'm very curious. So, well, first of all, tell me a little bit about yourself and what you're into.
Oh my goodness. Well, full transparency, I was sick for a long time, so I had a lot of time to think about the things I wanted to do. Never thought they would happen, but I was fortunate enough to run across my best friend who had found remission from the same disease as me and helped me find remission. And then once I got into remission, for me, what that looked like is having a flexible nervous system. So I have something called CRPS, and it's a dysfunction of your nervous system. So your brain and your body is stuck in fight or flight. So all stimuli, it could be food, touch, light, sound, rain, bath, blanket, causes the worst pain imaginable. It's ranked the highest on the pain McGill scale. So that's why they call it the suicide disease. So most folks go the traditional medical route and usually don't find relief. In fact, it usually spreads and they become more dependent. And unfortunately, in some cases, either some people take their lives or it takes them. So when Chris and I found remission, we wanted to create awareness around the fact like, hey, you can actually heal from this. So we started a space that was more of like a support group in the beginning, then it became more resources. And now me and her just use it to have a safe space where folks can come and be positive. A lot of the support spaces are doom and gloom, and that's just not how we roll. So we made our own little space. We have our nice little community and we take care of each other. And, I think it was like a whole new second chance at life. So part of that was I had what I call a remission bucket list. And my remission bucket list had all these things that I had thought about in those 8 years when I was sick that I wanted to do. And one of the things was I wanted to be a paranormal investigator. I've always been curious about it. I have had experiences my whole life. And I told myself if the opportunity arises, like I would go out and get it. And full print, like in the beginning, I think I was too reliant on trying to find other people to show me the way instead of just diving in. And like one day it really just clicked and it was like, you know what? I got to stop waiting for people and I just got to freaking do it. Can I swear?
Absolutely. We swear a lot.
Okay, good. You got to fucking do it.
Definitely.
All right. So I was like, you know what? I got to do this. Like I don't know how much time I have. I don't know how much my body's going to allow me to live the life that I'm living. So for me, I was like, what better way than kind of what we were discussing earlier is it really is going in and being mindful of where you're at, knowing where your mindset is at, and really actually challenging your nervous system. Are you able to stay calm when you're uncomfortable? Are you able to keep yourself in check when things maybe seem like they're going, down a darker route? Are you able to keep your composure when you're maybe approached by the police because you're trespassing? Right. I think, and I'm very fortunate. I went back into the field that I was in when I actually became ill. And it is a field that definitely is very demanding of your nervous system. It does require a lot of stress. I have to be mindful of how I speak about it. But essentially, I go out in the community and provide resources and some more support for folks in need who maybe, are having a hard time accessing some of their basic needs. So being out in some of the roughest parts of Hartford and, seeing how different people live and seeing different communities, it's like really humbled me a lot. And it's really pushed me to work through that fear response. And again, like having a disease that really is at the core, keeping that in check, it's probably been one of the most beneficial things to me. And I think I finally gained the confidence, and my best friend finally came out and we finally got to meet. So we had known each other for 2 years and we had never met in person. So we finally met and we are like, all right, while you're here, we're going to a bunch of cemeteries. So of course, what does she do? She maxes out a credit card and orders all this equipment. And next thing I know, I come home from work one day and she's like, we're going. And I'm like,
so exciting.
That's awesome.
I'm like, you know what? Like, why? Like, I don't need to wait. That was really what I was like. I don't need to wait on anybody anymore. I was going out with folks that were experienced, and I'm grateful for that. They really showed me a lot of things. But I think if anything's been taught to me by my illness, it's like you can't wait. You have to go over after the things that you want. And so it was kind of like I finally was like, all right, Alyssa, like time to do it. You're next on your list. So yeah. Once she left and went back to Kansas, I wrote my husband in and said, all right, we're doing this. And he caught the bug and now he's planning trips and he's like, hey, you want to go out after work?
That's amazing.
Super scared and, not wanting to deal with any of that to like, yeah, let's do it. So.
Oh, and that's such a worthwhile endeavor. You seem like a really kind person and you really care. And I know you've been through a lot, and I'm so glad that this is helping you.
Yeah, it's healing in some ways. It's
Oh,
it's hard to describe, but being outside, traveling, seeing people. I mean, you're around death, right? Like it's for me, we do a lot of ghost stuff. And yeah, I think it really balances you out. It puts life in perspective. I know some folks are like, I can never do that. And I'm like, there's a lot to learn. Like my husband's big into genealogy. So his big thing is he does the genealogy and the history on the folks that we connect with. So if we go to a graveyard, for instance, we went to a graveyard that overlooks a lake I grew up swimming in, and very, very small. Most of the graves are between like around 1800s for the most part. And there was one that we came across, Rebecca. And if you go on my TikTok, you can scroll down and find hers, some of her interactions. And we really started connecting with her and we realized it didn't have a birth date. It just had a death date and an age. So I told my husband, I was like, is it on Gravefinder? And he's looking, he's like, it is, but there's like minimal information. So he starts digging and he starts finding like her birth certificate. She actually was born in the town we live. And we figured being born for her, it would have been in the 1700s. Like she may have not even have been, here. She may have come from another country and that's why we didn't know the date. Found her birth certificate, found her marriage certificate, and was able to update some of her genealogy stuff, was able to update her Gravefinder. So now if there's relatives there or folks doing that, they're going to have that piece. And he uploaded the documents. So now in a way, like our whole thing is we want to humanize the grave. Like the spirits are not just it's not a form of entertainment. Like, yes, it's entertaining and it's fun and you can enjoy yourself when you're doing it. But I think too many people forget, like, these were people just like you and I. And so that's really like how we go in and approach a lot of the stuff we do. We try to connect with people. We're mindful of the people we're trying to connect with, the language that we're using, the words we're using. If I got someone from the 1800s, they don't know what the phone is.
oh my gosh, I could tell that you respect the spirits just based on what I've seen so far. Because I don't have TikTok, but on YouTube, I was checking out your shorts, and your husband was so respectful with the flashlight. He was like encouraging. He was like, "Come on, you can do it." And sure enough, like they respond to respect. Always, always. They don't respond to demands. They respond to respect, and just a nice, pleasant conversation.
They do. And I think that's why we've never gone anywhere and not gotten interaction. And everybody, it was funny. I got a message today on my TikTok, and our TikTok's just been growing. It's been crazy. Someone messaged me and said, I saw you in the very beginning and you guys are really growing quickly. And I really think it's because of your approach. And they're like, we're amazed at that. Every time you go out to a location, you're getting the amount of interaction you're getting. Cause they're like, we've never had that. And I don't think it's necessarily the spots, right? Like we're not going to these huge well-known. I mean, today we kind of did, but it was like a well-known battlefield spot.
Ooh.
But like, I just think most of the spots we're going are not well known. And the fact that we're coming in, it's like we're giving a voice to people who haven't had a voice for how long? We don't know how time is for them on the other side. We have no idea, like to me, I'm like, maybe it's been 100 years, but to them, it could feel like 1,000, or maybe it feels like just a second. So we try to go in and find these spots, and we're lucky. Like we always get interaction. We have places we have to go back now and bring, I think shots of bourbon. I think my husband agreed to.
Oh, they respond. Apparently they respond to alcohol is what I've heard. Alcohol and cigarettes.
Yeah.
I heard that a lot of spirits respond to that.
Where's the marijuana?
Funny you bring that up. So one of my best friend's father just passed away. He unfortunately it was sudden, and it was just really bad circumstances, and he used cannabis. And so we went out and went to his grave, and she pulled out and started smoking like a vape. I don't remember, I think it was a vape. And she's like, "Hey daddy, you want to take a hit?" And we went from like dead quiet to like the REM pod going crazy, the K2s going crazy. I mean, I've never, I don't know, I think I uploaded those videos. It might be at the very start. I've never seen a REM pod go off like that. It didn't matter where I took it in the vicinity of his grave. That thing did not stop. Mm-hmm. And it was interesting. Like there's just certain things that people really connect with. And smoking and drinking, I guess, is one of them.
Yeah, it is. I keep hearing that. I've never really thought to bring cigarettes or alcohol, but I need to start because apparently it's very triggering.
Yeah, just put a pack of cigs in the bag, and we have holy water. We also find that's a good thing. Like me and my husband, we don't subscribe to the Christian faith. It's just not, it doesn't resonate with us. He was brought up Catholic. I was brought up Baptist. But we still we ask folks like, "Hey, do you want us to pray for you? Do you want us some holy water?" I have Florida water with me. I'll bring incense, and it's a good way to stir up activity. It really is.
Just say you just see Chrissy with holy water. Fuck you, evil.
Every day is a good day to say fuck you, evil.
I know. Sorry, I had to bring that up when I heard the holy water being real. It's hilarious. But I was going to ask you too, what are your thoughts about the stone tape theory?
I don't know if I'm familiar.
Not a lot of us know about that. Dustin, you're the only one who knows about that.
It's like a breakthrough through like the paranormal community. It's an awesome theory that I always, when I heard it the first time.
Let me hear it and I'll tell you what I think.
Sure. I like how it's named stone tape theory. And it's like the theory is that instead of like a ghost that say like a person dies in a room, that's saying like this person's basically trapped in this room and he's haunting only this room or house, or he's kind of like in limbo. But they think the theory is that like after a person dies, their spirit goes through a wall, or it goes through the ceiling, or it goes through something, but it records its like last moments. And once a person comes into the room next, they can activate this, and it's kind of like the last kind of blurps of life that was here.
Yeah. Okay.
Left. And that's kind of like the stone tape theory, is like the wall is recording the last moments of people's lives. So that's why we are interacting with kind of like little blips, and that's why sometimes always kind of repeats itself. You know what I'm saying? It's always the same. Okay. So yeah, it's just a theory out there. It's kind of cool.
So my husband and I, we always say all the time, we don't know who we're communicating, why they're communicating, how they're communicating. And like today when we were at Griswold Battlefield in Groton, Connecticut, and we were getting a lot coming through, and it was a lot of military related stuff. So for us, like, I think like someone who's new to it would go in with the perception of like, every word we're getting is responding and it's an intelligent response. And my husband said, I'll be honest, because he was doing the Estes method, he's like, it almost sounded like a recording. It was kind of like someone yelling, and then you heard something in the background. He's like, it was almost like a movie was playing out.
Right.
And
right. Exactly.
And the interactions that we get sometimes feel very limited, almost on a loop. And today was one of those days. The same names were coming through, the same sayings were coming through. And I almost said to him, like, okay, so it could be residual energy, but what if there's like a residual, like there's an imprint of this, like, right? Like it was a field.
Exactly. It's like an imprint on the wall, basically, that records the last moments of this person's life or whatever instance happened, or like memories, something so strong, because we are energy, and something, the energy has to go somewhere. And I can only imagine what kind of imprint it leaves behind getting out. I don't know. Like, we'll find out one day, but shit.
She was in a battle. She was on a battlefield. Well, that's how Gettysburg is.
Sure,
Gettysburg is a lot of imprints that just keep replaying themselves, from what I understand. So if you were to actually tell us more about where you were today.
Yeah, so we actually, like, I don't know how much I told you about our style, but the way we go into a investigation is we normally don't do a ton of research. We just kind of do the bare bones, like, what is it about, time period, how many people who may have died, kind of deal. But we don't get into the nitty gritty because we don't want to go in biased. We want to go in very, very measured and with no real, I guess, just, we don't want to bring in any new energy that, maybe isn't there. And so we really want to not have a filter when we're interpreting stuff. So I've never been there. It's right on the water in Groton. It's beautiful. So there's a bunch of like I think the Coast Guard's there. They have a bunch of military pads, and like there's just a bunch of stuff going on there. You can hear the trains going by. So I always think trains move energy. You're right by the ocean. You have these boats coming in and out, and just think of like all these people that came in and out of there. So you can hear the boats, like in the video, you can hear the boats go on in the background, the train going on in the background. And when you arrive, there's this big like monument, and it had this really weird door that had on the inside like all these names, and then it was like, it sounded like a vacuum. It was very loud. I have no idea what that thing is, so we're gonna have to go back and research, because I think after we have our experiences, we do go back and say, okay, what was this relevant to? Was this maybe something fairly intelligent, or are we doing something residual, or are we seeing that like maybe imprint of something very definitive? I mean, I almost wonder, going back to the theory, now you got my brain going, this is what happens. I almost would wonder, like, if you have so many of those imprints happening, but think like they're not all exactly at the same time, so it's all this staggered time, just think of how much energetic stuff gets built up. So like at the spot we were at, it's all stone. I always think rock and stone absorb energy, and that's just something I believe. I think that's why like headstones or graves, like the closer you get, depending on what people have maybe put in for intentions or whatnot, like I think stuff gets stuck in there, those imprints. So
they said that about limestone as well.
Yeah.
Limestone. Yeah.
Yep. So I think I almost wonder, like, it was interesting. We walked around, so you see the big monument, and then you go through these gates, and it's got like the folks that passed away and like what were their roles. And then you see like there's all these like divots and these stones where they would have gone for protection. And then there's like one big peak that overlooks the water. It's beautiful. And then set down from that is another layer of stone where they would have had all the cannons. And then they had like two buildings, one for making like storage of gunpowder, and the other one was like making cannonballs. But they have like, when you come in, like a couple of monuments, and then there's like a tunnel that you have to go through. So that was cool.
Cool.
And then you had to go down this long, when you come up, we'll go there. It's cool.
Yes.
The stone like goes down. It's all this high sea grass. Like, it's a vibe. It really is. But every time we really had connection or was making contact with spirit, it was when we were near the stone walls.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
It wasn't when we were in the middle of the fields. It wasn't really where the cannonballs, or the cannons would have been set up. It was like near the stone walls where people would have been hiding. Right. So like, I'm thinking, all that fear and anxiety and energy, right? Like, I really feel like there was something to the walls there. So I guess part of the story is whoever was in charge, it was part of the Revolutionary War, I believe, whoever was in charge that was coming over, bad guys, I guess, there was a black slave, and then he didn't have a gun. He had like a spear. He ended up killing the commander. And so there's like a memorial for him, which I think is beautiful, because most folks back in the day, that were folks of color, like they're not respected, honored. They would have never, like, they wouldn't even have known their name for things like that. So it was beautiful to see, like, they had this whole monument there. And we're pretty sure we connected with him. We were getting some responses, but we were getting a lot of female names. So my husband and I were trying to figure out, like, okay, is it like a wife, a nurse, so we're asking questions, a child, like, was it they were asking for their spouse, but it was like, basically give us your name. And like, we kept getting the same female names coming through. And so it was kind of interesting. Like, I was talking to my husband, I'm like, well, I know like that area does have, I'm sure folks that go to the park at night, they're maybe homeless or something like that. Like maybe someone could have died there, right? Like we start getting creative. Like we're not just saying, wait, it's the folks from the battlefield, it might be something more recent or local, like we don't know. But we connected with this woman, Catherine, who said she was murdered. Didn't get into all of it. But like, again, we were getting some intelligent responses, but like, I think if we were asking any questions, we still could have catered those responses. So I think there's a healthy level of skepticism in the way that we do things, because we're really thinking, okay, like what's the time period? Are we really connecting with the people that maybe are, connected with this place? Is it an imprint of something else? There's a ton of houses that surround the whole battlefield. There's an old school that's up there. There's an old library. Who's to say that's not energy coming down? It could have nothing to do with why we were there. So we really try to get clear when we're investigating. We try to have multiple pieces of equipment going. So if you're interacting on the REM pod, I then want to see you light up the flashlight. Then I want you to talk through Ghost Tube, and then I want you to talk through on the Estes method. And the reason we do that was I don't think there's a lot of credibility in just like maybe one method of something. I think it really, again, it depends, but I think if you can back it up with multiple pieces of evidence or equipment, then we really start to say, okay, there's really something here. And again, we'll take that information and we'll go back with it. So we did do some research and try to find some of like we looked for Catherine, a Catherine on the big stone wall with all the names after as we were leaving. We didn't see that. But the weird thing was, while we were there, my husband all of a sudden just like stops at one name and he goes, I think I'm related to him. And my husband's like huge in genealogy. I'm like, what do you mean? Know that name. And it's like, and of course his brain is just like, and it's connected to him and him and him and him and him. And I'm just like, okay, you've already lost me. He's like, no, I think I might be related to him. So, and we've had these weird things where like, stuff like that's kind of happened, these weird synchronicities, where stuff's kind of, lined up. And I don't know, that's the thing about the paranormal. There are just some things that happen that you're just like, like that's just really weird. Like that's really weird. That's a weird
much of a coincidence. With the spiritual world, there are some things that they're just too much of a coincidence, and it can get real freaky sometimes.
So what to say, like in those battlefields that you were just saying, I think that's the high activity there of high loss of life and stuff.
I think I think there's a certain threshold that we reach with trauma, that we leave a spiritual imprint on the space around us. And with the battlefields, you see it a lot.
Right. I was just going to show some pictures. This is my grandfather on my dad's side, and he was fighting in Germany towards the end of the war. He was like one of the guys I think he was a prison guard for the Nazis or whatever.
Oh, wow.
Anyways, he brought his camera with him. So he was taking all these pictures, and he was one of the first United States soldiers to go into Hitler's bunker. And he was taking his own pictures and shit, him and his buddy. And you can see the Iron Eagle and shit. Crazy fucking shit. I can only imagine what crazy energies up in these walls. You know what I'm saying? Like how eerie.
It's over there. Same thing.
And like riddled with bullet holes. So again, these are my grandpa's photographs he was taken by himself. Look at this shit. Insane. And then he has, we'll get to the bunker part. It's pretty cool. So this is down the hallway of Hitler's bunker. That's pretty gnarly shit right there.
Oh my God.
Right. and this is Hitler's fireplace in the bunker. So he spent his last days just, sitting by the fire debating to shoot himself
Oh my
or
God.
escape to the inner earth. There's
So
some
cool,
different theories.
Dustin.
Isn't that cool? And there's a German Nazi soldier grave.
Wow.
And
Whoa.
then my grandpa picked up this flag that he saw on the street.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I can imagine what shit's on that thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Bad energy. Gotta cleanse that thing, man.
Yeah. So I
Wow, that was
had
cool,
to share that.
Dustin.
I had to share
Yeah.
Pretty rad.
that.
That was awesome.
When he sees that.
I had a lot of
Um,
family. Had a lot of family that fought in the wars. Yeah.
that was super cool, Dustin. Man, you have the coolest pictures that you share with us.
I'm endless. Yeah. No, it's fun.
Alyssa, so I saw that you were in a cemetery. Now I personally, I haven't hit up a lot of cemeteries. I think I did once with my ex back in high school. My the people I usually date, my husband's a skeptic. Okay, the people I am used to being attracted to, literally, they look like Dustin. Usually, they're tattooed head to toe. They jam out to Nine Inch Nails with me, and they usually talk to the dead with me. My husband is very straight edge, and he's the most
Like
basic
polar
bitch I
opposite.
have
Oh, that's
dated, but he ended up being
hilarious.
wonderful. Okay. But he is a skeptic. But so he hasn't done a lot with me. He's kind of getting into it. But my ex-boyfriend went to a cemetery with me and we didn't get many hits. So I never really went back to a cemetery, but you are getting a lot of hits. Tell me about what you found so far.
I think we just really connect with folks. So like we'll scope it out, we'll see kind of where we're drawn. We don't bring our feelings, I guess, into a lot of things, but we do when we first go in, like, what are we drawn to? That's the only time that we really aren't trying to, like, I guess, prove evidence. If that makes any sense. So we walk around and if I'm drawn to something, we just set up. If we're walking around the K2 and start getting spikes, we'll just drop what we're doing, start setting up there. We'll have ghost tube going again if words start coming through. And again, it seems somewhat intelligent. Then we're like, all right, we'll set up here. And then what we try to do is build a relationship. So, like I said, Rebecca, we've gone back a few times and talked with her. We brought a friend with us last time. She did not like him. He was a little aggressive, I think that he's just, I think he's seen a little too many ghost adventures, but we had to rein him back. I'm like, remember, they're people. He's like, I know. When he thought
That is funny.
we were getting more responses, but
Yeah.
she was like not having it with him. But the other two times that we had been out there, we had really built a relationship. Like I said, my husband would do research and then we'd go back with that. So we actually connected in the same cemetery, and you can see this on my TikTok as well, with this gentleman called Mr. We call him Mr. Neff. He was a Freemason, and he was well known, like in the next town. He was like the first selectman. He was like this renowned fiddle player in some orchestra. He was a blacksmith. He was a barber. So he had all these different things that I was like, oh, we could do something with this. So we actually went back and we played fiddle music for him. I brought him a pair of my clippers and showed him what clippers look like now. And he really responded well. And like, I think it's, again, we're trying to build relationships. We're not looking to have it be entertainment. We're really looking to go in and get to know these people and build relationships, because how we're really, I guess for us, we're always curious what's on the other side. We none of us really know what's next, so, and it's funny, every time we ask a spirit, especially in the cemeteries, we're like, where are you? What does it look like? How old are you? What year is it? Like when we were at the battlefield today, we kept getting, what is the date? What year is it? But when I would ask, they couldn't respond. So it really makes you start to think, like, are they, maybe time and space really isn't a thing of where they are, or is there like again, it's tough, because I tell people all the time, they're like, you think this is possible? You think this? I think anything's possible. I think we count too much out. So we go in with trying to debunk things. Like if we start getting activity, we'll pull the batteries out or we'll move things around. We'll try to duplicate, what we're doing. And if we can, we'll really start to build a relationship. So we've gone to a few cemeteries where we've built these relationships with people and we've gotten really good reactions. And we'll usually tell them, like, when you're done, let us know. We'll bow out. Like, we're not here to be disrespectful. And we're always respectful. If they say, at first they might say get out or leave, and I might say, okay, are you sure? Are you sure you want us to leave? And sometimes we find that their spirits like hijacking the interaction we're having with someone, like they don't like the attention kind of on.
I've seen that too. Mm-hmm.
Like we try to get real clear, like, who are we talking to? What do you want? And so, but we'll get, we'll get where they're like, no, I'll, goodbye or go away. And it's like, okay, have a great night. Thank you for taking the time to speak with us. We'll come back and visit you. Sometimes I'll come back and make an offering. I'll bring a crystal or light an incense or just something to show my respect. And, I think so many people, they die in like, in 100 years, we don't know anything really, they're gone. So I think if we go back and try to learn from these people and talk to these people, there's things that we can learn. And I think Dan and I have really kind of learned a lot from people.
So smart. The way you're doing things is so smart, and I can really learn from you. I mean, looking into the history of a place, and if you get a name, if you can find out a little bit more about them and what they like, and then you're interacting with them with music, which, music speaks to the soul, it's straight to the soul. And just the fact that you thought to do that is so smart. God, I got to take some tips from you for my next investigation. That's good.
It's funny.
You're getting hits.
Yeah. I mean, it's cool. I don't think we thought it was going to go the direction that it did or get it, I mean, it's all I think about. It's pretty bad. I'm at work and I'm like, oh, where can I go next? Or,
trust me, I know how that goes.
Like, okay, I got my job, but like, what happens when I get home? What happens on the weekend? Everything gets put aside so we can just go somewhere, especially with the weather getting colder. We're trying to get out as much as we can now because we know it's going to get a little colder.
Get harder soon.
Yeah. But back to like the music thing. So something funny. So we were playing like old time, like fiddle music from his era. And I was like, all right, Mr. Neff, I want you to hear a fiddle song from my time. And I put on the Delta Down to Georgia. Not having it. Like he went dead silent. I'm going like, woohoo, the flashlight, everything. It was like a disco party in there to like, nope, you're done.
What is this garbage?
I went to my husband. I'm like, I think we're done. I'm like, all right, Mr. Neff, thank you for your time. We'll be back.
Oh, that's amazing. I also saw, by the way, that you went to is it called Seaside
Sanitarium?
Okay, that looks cool.
Sanatorium. I miss it.
Sanatorium?
Yeah, I think it's
what is it? What is that place?
So it's actually not too far from the other spot. I want to say they're about a half hour apart. So on that property, you have two big main buildings, and then you have two houses, and then there's like a cool creepy bridge there, just for effect. I'm sure. I'm looking at the bridge. I'm like, this isn't necessary. But from what I understand, and again, I'm not the history person. I just go and I'm the content creator, and I do my thing. But from what I understand is it was a place for tuberculosis. So when you look at one of the buildings, it looks like these penthouses almost with these decks. And from what I understand, folks would go out and, lay outside, like fresh air was considered one of the treatments. So, it was originally that. And then I think it was like elderly housing. And then it turned to a mental health facility after that. So of course, every time me and my husband go to these big places, I mean, it's so spread out. We're walking around and he ends up going one direction. I end up going another. So I'm like, I got like the camera, and then I got like a couple tools. He's got the bag. He's off doing his thing. So I have no clue what he's doing. So we separated for like an hour, and I was like, find him, whatever. Which is funny because when I first started, again, like I would have never been doing that on my own. But the more you do this, I think the more confident you get. It brings out another side of you. Like I feel like I've grown a lot by doing this. And so I'm off walking around. So he's checking out the two big main buildings, and I'm looking at like the two houses. And we're still doing a little more research, trying to find like what role for each property was. Because two of the houses we both got really, really, really good interactions with. One of the houses, like one of the windows was completely busted out in the back. So like we were able to see inside, some of the space, and we did some standing around, and it was definitely had a heavier presence in there. But I don't know, that could have just been an office. It could have been maybe staff was living there. I'm not sure yet. We have to go back, but we did get some interaction. And the weird thing is so he was on GhostTube and he was going in between his camera. I was going live. I had full service. Like there was no reason for it to cut out.
Yeah.
And both of our cameras at the same time, mind you, he's on one piece of the property, I'm on the other, and they both are glitching. When we both go back and look at the same video during the same time period, it literally was fragmenting and rewinding, like on my TikTok live. It makes no sense. I've never seen it. It wasn't even just lagging. Like it literally repeated, like there's a whole minute of it just repeating the same thing over and over and over again. And then it comes back and then it's back. And it was the same exact time for my husband and I. That was the first time we really encountered something like that. And again, we're not super techie, so it could have been something I did. But we were supposed to go back there today. And then I was like, actually, can we go try this other spot? And he was like, yeah. So we went there instead. But we do want to go back because I do want to see, like, it's a lot of brick buildings. Like, was it just where we were positioned between the buildings? Again, it showed we had great service. It doesn't make any sense though, even why his regular phone camera, even when he wasn't going through GhostTube or an app, still glitches. We can't make sense of it. We did make some connections with people. We got some names that came through. My husband, they love my husband. They connect so well. Like certain spirits just really take to him. And that's why sometimes I've taken more of a step back and I film and I entertain and just watch the live, because they really do respond well to him. And I think too, like thinking back to that time, like if you think about kind of the roles in society, men were more dominant. A male probably is going to respond more to a male than think about it. Like if he passed away at 80 something, he's got a 30 something year old female saying, hey, let's chat. He may not feel comfortable, but having another male there might make him feel a little more comfortable. So he gets I think he gets a lot more interaction than I do. And we were just talking about this in bed the other night. Like we always ask such different questions. So like I'll be sitting back watching, like we were at an old mental hospital. It was a mental hospital and a training school. It's up by UConn. I'll take you there too. And nice. Multiple stone properties. And that has a heavier presence there. And after we did the research of what was going on there, totally makes sense. You had like kids and like adults kind of in the same spaces, and a lot of mental health, and they would strip them down naked to search them, and just like a lot of stuff that would have been super traumatic on top of, and think back then, you have one little, mental episode, they just put you in a hospital and most families just left you. And that's a lot of like the stories we were getting when we were there. But it's really kind of interesting. Like he was asking questions to this, what we believe was a child or a girl. And I think we had something kind of trickster-ish trying to intercept, because some of the questions weren't like, they seemed like their own separate conversation, like the words went together. And basically what it came down to is this person thought they were a monster. And we figured out that it was like a little girl who we believe was killed by her mother. Like this was the information that we had coming through. And I remember like he got down like on the little girl's level and was like trying to talk to her, and they were just, the connection was totally different. And like he would get a response, and where he would go with the question was totally separate and different than where I would have gone. Like in my head, I'm like, no, us wives, we're like, no, that's wrong. Yeah, why would you ask? Why are you going there? But like he gets a lot of good responses. So like I've learned to really like let him do his thing, because they do respond really well to him. And like his brain is just intuitively with certain things get certain answers. And then there's other times that I'm sure he's going like, well, where's she going with this? And, I'll get another set of kind of interaction or or whatnot. So it's been really, really cool to see him blossom.
Oh, you guys make such a good team. And like, he really is so respectful of the ghosts. One time I set my husband up with a recorder in a bordello, which, you know, prostitutes a whorehouse, in the Shanley. And I set him up with a recorder and I walked away. I was like, you talk to Anna the prostitute. And I walked away. And later on the recorder, he was asking for BJs and stuff.
What?
Not why I sent you there. Like you failed in the past.
I was like, is everything a joke to you, Robert? This is a serious investigation, bro.
Right.
So yeah. He's gotten a little better.
That's pretty funny.
We're gonna have a fun time going out together.
Oh yes. Oh my gosh. It's gonna be fun. I cannot
Make sure you bring the
like,
holy water.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Like we're getting evidence and they're gonna be over there just having a good old time. I can see it.
Yeah, it's gonna be good. It's gonna be fun. I can't wait to set something up to come over. I don't know where do you live again? We'll talk about it later. I don't want stalkers to come back here.
I'm like on the Massachusetts CT line, so I'm about 20 minutes from Sturbridge Village.
Okay, yeah, I think it's about 2.5 hours, which is not bad. We go to Pennsylvania all the time. You know, we go to surrounding states. We're used to it. So we figured, you know, we'd love to check out your area. We'll get a hotel room and just check out the area for a couple of days.
We would love our town. Like we have our town. So like, I'm just gonna say, so we're in Stafford Springs, Connecticut. I'm so proud of my little town. And we just have a lot of really passionate, beautiful, hardworking people that pour their heart and soul into our little downtown. We have like little restaurants and we have like a coffee shop. We have a magic wand shop that I used to work at that sells like Harry Potter wands and things that are all hand carved. So I could bring you there, probably have someone like show you how to carve a wand, or I'll carve a wand for you or whatever. It's pretty cool. Like,
oh, that sounds really cute.
There's some amazing stuff. And then we have my friend Vanessa has like this really cute witchy shop. She does like candles and apothecary like items, and then like bed and bath stuff. And then my girl Charlotte across the street is the crystal shop, and she does, you know, different workshops, and she's getting into sound healing, and she has like her Reiki and stuff there. We have the cidery that I've bartended at. We have our brewery. We have a new plant shop that just opened, a cute little record store.
Oh, that sounds like such a cute area.
I love our town. So the history with our town is that we have a bunch of mineral springs, and like we're actually not too far from a quarry. So like you can go out. Do I have some? Yeah, I have a ton here. You can actually go out and like, well, you're not supposed to, but there's quartz, like an old quarry behind a school, and it's a beautiful hiking trail. And you've probably seen some of the stuff where I posted by like waterfalls. That's tucked back there, and there's crystals just out that have like crumbled. And so like, of course, we always go in and I like shove them in places they shouldn't go, just in case we get I'm like, they're not gonna you know. Or they're walking out with our little crystals, and it's cool. Like the whole area, the springs, people thought, you know, the mineral springs had healing water, so they would come out here, and you know, people would vacation. I want to say there was like a famous president, I don't even want to try to get the name right, so again, I'm not the history one, who's come out to the town and like bathed in the springs. And it's cool. There's a lot of cool history here. The track they used to race horses, now it's cars. But it's just a really cool area. And I believe too, we have the train that runs through here. We're by all this water. I think the quartz throughout here, I think it carries a lot of energy. Maybe that's part of the reason we do get a lot of activity in the cemeteries in the area that we go to.
Interesting. It does seem like a pretty cool area. I would love to get over there. When the weather gets warmer, it's going to be so much nicer for investigations. I'm already so freezing out. We had an investigation a couple weeks ago.
A wool sweater,
right?
A long sleeve shirt, a t-shirt, and a tank top. And I was like just about warm, but like my ears were done. Right. I couldn't even hear at the end because they were so cold. I had button up course, there's people walking around in t-shirts, but I'm always freezing.
I know. I'm always freezing too. Like I'll have on like 10 snuggies and I'll still be too cold. And the winter is going to be rough for investigating over here on the East Coast, but in the spring.
Heated jacket, maybe? Have you tried
Oh my
one?
God, I do. I have a heated jacket and I'm
Okay.
like still, no matter what I do, I'm still too cold.
I'm gonna ask you if
I
it's
hate winter.
like maybe I need the heated jacket.
They're good. They're good. They help, but it's still rough here. I don't know. Do you like the winters here?
So with the disease I have, like cold is like one of the worst things.
Okay.
And it actually would get to the point where I couldn't even go out. Like I would get pretty much paralyzed. Like my legs would stop working. My husband would have to carry me. So cold has not always been my friend, but in my remission, I have this like hate-love relationship, right? Like I can finally go out in the cold and it doesn't cause me to like lose function, of my body. But on the other hand, it's still really cold. So
yeah.
like my husband always laughs because it'll be freezing out and I'll like have to put my feet in the water just to be like, look, I'm in remission. Like it's just me.
That's good.
Yeah, it's like we have to do it. But he knows, like if I'm cold, he knows we usually have about a minute or two to get me somewhere warm. Because at that point I can't regulate my temperature. But yeah, I struggle with the cold. I definitely struggle with the cold, but I think I'm learning to dress warmer. Having like a longer jacket and boots and layering. I think getting warm in the car, almost where you're sweating. Like I crank.
Yeah, getting overheated.
My husband's like, I'm hot, Alyssa. I'm pulling everything off. And I'm like, Dan, we're about to be outside and it's like 30 degrees out. Like, you're going to be okay. Like,
yeah.
you'll thank me in a minute, And then the other thing I've learned, which is like my new thing, do you have Cumbies near you? I don't know if it's like a gas station. Cumberland Farms.
I think I've seen them before, but I don't know if it's in New York.
It's kind of like
I've seen them.
I guess, like if you had to compare it to something, they have this like hot chocolate and cappuccino machine. And so I've made my own little like cocktail of like all the different things. So I make my hot drink and I bring my hot drink with me. And I think between that, because we don't stay out more than 2 hours. I don't have more than 2 hours in me. I get tired.
Yeah.
Unless I'm paying for a place, which we really don't want to do. Like I can't. It really would have to be worth it. And I think like to have a group that you really want to go with. But just for me and him, things are it's too expensive just to do stuff on our own. So, I don't know. We've come up with the things that keep us warm, so like, that's my thing. Down jacket, layers, cold drink.
I have the same tricks, man.
By the time I'm done, but warm drink. Yeah, I don't know. Find your thing.
We do what we have to do to survive here on the East Coast.
Right.
But Alyssa, tell me a little bit about any UFO experience you have. You said you had some interest.
Yes. So my whole paranormal thing started when I was a kid. So and maybe it was just my neurospicy self, I found a book in the library and it was on UFOs, ghosts, and Bigfoot and Loch Ness Monster. I literally can still see the pages in my head. For the 4 years I went to that school, that is the only book I ever took out. Why the librarian didn't just give it to me, I don't know. Literally, every time we had to check out books from the library, I always got that book. And they would always try to be like, oh, Alyssa, like, let's check out this. Or like, no, like I wanted those. And then I would always get the ones on rocks and crystals. And so my grandfather started like taking me out and like we would look for cool rocks. He got me a rock tumbler. And so it kind of got me like curious about a lot of those things. And I remember being probably like 7 or 8. It was before we moved out of the condo. And I remember being outside, like looking up, and there was a bunch of us kids. It was a complex, so we would all play together. And there would be like one parent that kind of like watched over everybody. They would take turns. And I remember like just sitting off to the side and like looking up, and I was like, it's not a plane. Like it was the height was like that of the plane, but not quite. Like it was just a solid object, and it was not moving. It was not getting smaller, bigger, side to side, nothing. And I remember just being like, okay, like I know I'm a kid, but like this ain't making sense. Like there's nothing that can just sit like that. And it was like gray in shape. It almost looked like if you took a quarter and just kind of turned it. It was just sitting there. And I ran inside and I was like, Mom, Dad, like, come look at this, right? Because I've been reading this book. So I'm like, whoa, this is real. And they're like, oh, no, honey, like, I'm sure it's nothing. It's probably a plane. They come out. Now I can't find it. It's gone. I'm like, well, that's weird. They go back inside. I'm back out playing again. I turn around. It's there again. But this time it's in a different position in the sky. And like, to judge how far it was, I can't even tell you, but it was still within, like, the way the condo was set up, it was like you kind of had tunnel vision. So like it really could only be in that scope of your view. Otherwise you would have had to go all the way to the end in order to see the sky open up. So like it was still within that, it was still measurable within that space. And like I'm looking at it, and then all of a sudden it just kind of darts off to the side. And I was like, oh, damn. Like this is, and like I'm trying to get my friends, and like they could care less, right? Like they're not reading books like me. So they're like, yeah, like, whatever, Alyssa, it's a plane. And I'm like, no, it's not. It's aliens. And they're like, no. So I run back inside, and my father was a detective, and I'm like, Dad, like, you got to come see this. Like, there's something to this. And he's like, all right. So he comes back out and he looks. He's like, Alyssa, it's just a plane. And I'm like, no, it's not. And he turns his back away. And I'm like, Dad, it's not a plane. And then it was gone. And that was it.
Wow.
Of course, like the rest of the night, like after dinner, I wanted to go back out because I wanted to see if it was there. Like, but ever since then, I always look up in the sky. And I remember, like, just as a kid, any opportunity I had, I would just sit, even with my grandparents outside, and just look up at the sky and just kind of, because there was always that curiosity. Are they good? Are they bad? What do they want? Are they already here? All the stuff starts going through. And as a kid, especially around that age, you're just starting to learn, like, have like a sense of time and a sense of identity, and like feel a sense of, like, yeah, oh, I'm a part of society, or, like you're starting to really come into your being. So it's really conflicting as a child to like see something.
It is.
And you start questioning, like, of course, my poor mother. I'm like, well, how do we know God's real?
Sure. Well, I think everybody has that conversation with their parents.
Yeah.
Right. And the curiosity is always there. Like, where the hell we came from, especially if you had your own experiences and having the interest as a kid. I had the same deal. Like, as a kid, I went straight to the UFO books. And I love the picture books in general. Like, that was just awesome. But yeah, again, being an adult and then talking about these subjects, it's really kind of cool. And it's really fun to think and theorize where the hell we're coming from. If these are ancient astronauts, or we're ancient astronauts that crash landed here millions of years ago that had to start from scratch, after we lost everything else. But here I was going to show some photographs that I actually own from Colonel Wendell Stevens' photograph collection. This is a UFO with an F-117 stealth fighter. This is taken in '94 over Pensacola, Florida, over the ocean. Some dude is sitting on the beach taking snaps and shots. And it's a series of photographs of this F-117 taking swoops at it. These are the ones that made me really known in the UFO community. So when I go on podcasts, I usually talk about these photograph series of, I have 12 of them of this thing. It's awesome. And again, the fact they're physical photographs, not just digital, and I have negatives to some of these photographs. Very awesome. Very lucky. Again, I was battling other people, and I spent a lot of money on these photographs.
So what I saw was probably, it looked like that, minus, see the dark section in the middle. Take that off. Like, sure.
This could be the shadow too, obviously.
And then it was a little more blurry because there was some clouds or whatever that it was. Sure. But very similar to that there.
And this is another photograph from, I think, '94, from a different area with another jet plane.
Wow.
Out in the jungle somewhere. But just, again, what the fuck? Yeah, just,
there's no dimension when you look at it on that angle. It's crazy.
Oh yeah.
And I just like how you can see it move through the scenery of like,
Right.
because I like how there's a series of photographs, not just one photograph of a UFO, but you actually see that like this, how is this going across the landscape, especially this one too. Just you can see the trees, it's moving, going over the house.
Wow.
Just yeah, crazy fucking shit.
So cool.
Yeah.
Rad. So I have to say, I can't say that I've had anything as definitive UFO since. Um, but I haven't, like I said, I'm always looking, but I don't go looking for it. If
Sure.
that makes sense. Like I think now we've gone more towards the ghost route. So for you, like, what have have you had experiences? Have you been able to like,
Yeah, I actually have. I had one uh back in 2012, right behind Hoyt Park. It's like 2 minutes away from my house. It's a big park. And yeah, I was just leaving my girlfriend's house at the time and went to my car, and then out of the blue, I just happened to look up, and out of the clouds came this giant boomerang size of a school bus, about 45 feet above the treetops, and it had 5 dim lights underneath it, and it was dead silent. And the dead silent part fucked with me up because I was like, well, that's a cool military plane. What the fuck is that? And when it's getting closer and it's dead silent, I'm like, whoa, what the? And my hair stood up, my jaw dropped, and I ran back to my girlfriend's house. Like, you want to fuck me up? Just that's where I like sparked uh my curiosity, and like even like got further into the UFO field just because of that one experience. And then like recently this year, back in March, it was, is it May, March or May? Damn it. We had a humongous storm here in Madison where it like knocked the power out for like 2 weeks. Like all our food in the fridge got all fucking wasted and shit. It was fucked up. But I wanted to catch some lightning on my iPhone on slow motion, and I just happened to look into the sky, catch some cool lightning on the camera. I was like, oh, cool, I got a cool shot, and I ran back inside and watched the video. And no shit, there's a fucking flying saucer come flying through that shit. I'm like, no fucking way. Out of all the people that catch a UFO and the shot in the dark, this guy. And I'm like,
it's meant to be?
I've been told by star seeds that like, yeah, they know that you're talking them up and hyping them up online and amplifying their existence and shit. They're just gonna pop up once in a while when you're out there shooting. I'm like, what the fuck? I don't know about that, but that was just crazy just to catch something enough where like I put it online and it went to 36,000 views in one day and just went. This shot, everything I put online just goes up crazy.
Dustin,
But
you should send that to her. I thought it was really impressive. The video
yeah,
you sent me.
yeah, yeah, I
Send
could
it
do
to her
that.
after the show.
What was I gonna say? And then everybody was like, "You guys send it into MoveOn. You guys send it into MoveOn." I'm like, "All right, I'll send it into MoveOn." I think I can find the email that they sent me back when they analyzed my video and just made it more genuine when they're like they can explain what the hell that is. Besides that, shouldn't be that's not a plane. It's moving too fast. And um I wish I could share it on here. Unfortunately, the iPad's not doesn't allow you to do such shit. Here we go. I got the email of the MUFON guy. But very cool. And then I went to Chicago's paranormal convention and shared a booth with Barnaby Jones, who's a cryptic zoologist, and he's here in Wisconsin. And this guy is dedicated. Him and his mom. His mom is like right back behind him, and they have this like Ghostbuster van decked out, and they have like tons of equipment, and they film a bunch of their stuff. They do podcasts. They've been on big other networks and other stuff like that. But anyways, yeah, I shared a booth with him, showcasing these photographs, and our booth is right across from MUFON, uh, the Illinois district, and they're like, "You need to go over there right now." So I walk over to this photo album, and man, their eyes were bugging out of their head. They're all like all hunched over, like this, like, I can't believe this is Colonel Wendell Stevens shit. I'm like, fuck yeah, dude. That's like I told my whole story. They were so mind blown. They're like, holy fuck. And then after I left, another guy came back to me later on. He's like, dude, they were talking about you for the last 20 minutes after you left. I was like, hell yeah. Bam, put a fucking smack them on that. Sorry.
Awesome.
But yeah, no, it's very surreal and how it all came to be. Having my own personal experience, getting so involved, getting my hands on these photographs, meeting all these people who want to be on this podcast, having my own podcast. It's just like this crazy domino effect. And then I got Chrissy. Oh my God, are you kidding me? Like out of the people out of the whole world, I get this girl. You kidding me?
I feel the same way about you. I'm like, this guy's so cool and so sweet and has the same interests as me. This is insane. How did I get so lucky to be on this podcast?
Yeah, we have awesome chemistry when it comes to the paranormal and the UFOs, and we're very passionate people. And finding out that she's super knowledgeable and she's very enthusiastic about the podcast warms my heart. And I'm very lucky and very fortunate to be her friend, and hearing awesome compliments like that, I was like, Jesus Christ, look at you. Jesus Christ. Yeah, awesome.
Wow. Now, how did you guys meet?
Well,
let me tell you. Didn't you see my video trying to recruit ghost hunters?
Yes, I did. That was it. No, the fact that you were actually serious about it, and like, I was like, okay, well, and I just wanted to interview for my podcast, and I was thinking we had another co-host. There's another ghost hunter girl, and she's a psychic medium. She's great. She was actually doing a lot of cool readings for people on our show. Luna, you could probably find her on earlier episodes. But yeah, she's super awesome. But yeah, unfortunately, she just got too busy where she just couldn't do what, I was asking her. Yeah, life gets too busy for people. Understandable. And again, I just reached out to Chrissy and I was like, hey, I think you'd be an awesome co-host. She's like, fuck yeah. I'm totally on board. Let's fucking go. And ever since then, like, Chrissy's been hitting the gas on the podcast, recruiting people, getting, just being enthusiastic, throwing cool ideas together. We had dressed up for Halloween and stuff like that. Again, I'm just so glad to have this other element into this podcast. And I'm so glad it's Chrissy. And her personality sells. Dope. Very dope. And again, she brought you onto our show. So I'm very thankful for that. Yeah.
Very good find.
You're very awesome. And again, you're super knowledgeable yourself. You're you're a great storyteller. And yeah, I hope one day that your husband want to join you in one of these podcasts, because we like to get I like to organize big group chats, and I think you'd be perfect for one of them. So we'll get some bunch of other ghost hunters and other psychic mediums, or maybe remote viewers. I don't know. We'll just get a mix of people in and let's kick the shit.
I love viewing. I've been studying it. I just can't seem to do it.
The remote viewing?
Remote viewing?
A few courses, and like, I don't know. It's just something that, like, I don't know. I haven't. I know on those days I'm just gonna do it and be like, okay. I'm thinking too much. I think that's my biggest problem is like getting. You need to be in like a really controlled space, and like, it's not happening here.
Well, shit. Well, hey, on that note, I think we'll wrap it up for today and have you back on another time.
Yes.
Because that was so dope. That was so really awesome.
Lots of great info.
It was. Hey, can you stick with me for 2 more minutes?